So I was talking to my wife about a year and a half ago, and I said, dear, been an internist for 30 years, and that half of my job is seeing patients in the hospital. Well, that half of my job, seeing patients, taking care of them in the hospital, what I'd like to do is to go ahead and leave the hospital and take care of people primarily addicted to drugs and have mental issues and are on the streets and in the shelters in our place. And oh, by the way, those vacations we like to take to Europe and Asia every year. So we had a conversation. She's very supportive, and so since last June, I've been having basically a medical practice on the streets and in the shelters in Syracuse, New York. The impetus of this was because I became very pissed off. Now, Augustine of Hippo used a different phraseology. He said that hope has two beautiful daughters. The first one is anger at the way things are, and the second is courage to change the way things are. And so I use the words pissed off instead of anger in honor of Augustine of Hippo. So I began to attend meetings of the homeless coalitions in Syracuse, New York, around February of last year, and hooked up with a guy who, John Tomino, who was a restaurateur who sold his business and is basically giving hot food out of his van to the street folks. And so I just decided to jump on in with him and began taking care of patients out in the van with him. I bring patients in, take care of them, see them. These patients, by the way, 75% of the homeless individuals in Syracuse have insurance. They just don't have a doctor. And the reason I was getting pissed off about these kinds of things is that patients will be discharged from the emergency department or the hospital, and they'll say, well, go to see your doctor in a week, 2 days, 3 days, et cetera. Well, they can't get to the doctor. They don't have a doctor, and they get fired from a practice if you don't go in and make your appointments. They just can't get there. 50% of the individuals do have mental health issues, and most do have addiction problems, but much of this is logistics. They're every bit as sentient as all of us, the rest of us are, and know that they have bad lungs and high blood pressure, et cetera. And so was seeing patients, so I just became their doctor and began calling in prescriptions, writing prescriptions, et cetera, to people living in the shelters and on the streets at the time. This is a guy that was living under a bridge, 481 overpass near Cicero outside of Syracuse. He spit on me a few times, and I told him to shut the F up, and he quit spitting on me. We became fast friends, and he had sutures in that was getting infected for longer than a month or so. It took them out. He had rolled down that embankment and cracked his head and got sutured in the emergency department. We got him housed about a month or so after this picture was taken. In the van, I'll do abscesses, I'll drain abscesses and pack them. One of the things that made me PO'd at the hospital was recurrent infective endocarditis is a condition that infect the heart valves if you have abscesses, et cetera, that you don't have treatment for. People will get stigmatized and they'll get angry because people see them as drug addicts and not as individuals if they're homeless, and they won't go in to seek treatment as early as possible. And so trying to treat them early will hopefully preventing many of the complications of the problems. This is me. John and I were going out here on the right-hand side in the rain to see a guy, and his name is Roger, and Roger became actually a friend after we met him. Roger was not addicted to anything. He had mental illness, and he was living in a tent in Syracuse. We saw him, and he became stigmatized because he was getting recurrent boils on his butt, and primarily because he just had bad luck and had problems with hygiene. So we got him in the van, and he said, "What can you do for me? You can't do anything for me." Well, I cleaned up his abscess. We gave him clean underwear, and he collapsed in my arms crying and basically saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get off the street. So finally, and actually last Saturday, he was been housed in an apartment in Syracuse, New York. This is just another thing that I do. I think this is another suture repair. More things on the street. We see about 60 to 100 visits or revisits visits and revisits for homeless individuals to our one emergency department at Upstate per month are for homeless individuals, and those are recurring visits to the issue. So it's a fairly significant problem. At any time, there'll be 35 people sleeping outside. Over 300 to 400 are homeless. And we've just started to collect data since actually I started going out into the shelters in the winter in December and been seeing people on the street since last June. So fairly common ailments that you would imagine that patients have been cared for. And again, we just started collecting data. We have in those encounters, a number of about 200 encounters in total. We have a system of trying to identify early on in the emergency department, get me as their doctor to take care of them, and to try to get them into a medical facility. I can't do this all the time by the three of us right now. There's three of us doing it, me, myself, and I. And so we're going to try to expand this issue. And I think, so the next steps that I want to do is, I want to teach. I desire to teach. I have a passion for teaching. And I want to expand, we're going to expand our urban medicine curriculum our rural medicine curriculum into the urban environment and develop a curriculum in medicine, and partnering with SUNY Binghamton, the new School of Pharmacy there for pharmacy, and for nursing at Upstate, the three branches of those to develop a coordinated curriculum for this at our places. Thank you very much.